Now I know that we missed recording some of the disassembly. Disassembly will be the same as assembly. So this here now can just go slipped into place like this. We can lift this up, all the screws are up. This can go slipped into place like this. Now this can go screwed together. Obviously a couple screws go in here, hold all the stuff in place. I only put one screw in here because it looks like the second one screws too long for the hole, so I wonder if it has to screw into something else while it screws into there, so I'm not going to install it. But what I'll do is I'll put the board back now. So the board goes back on, just falls right into place. Now there's some little plastic tabs that seems to want to snap stuff into place. Alright, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws. What I would suggest is, when you're handling this board, you can try to touch a piece of metal on your desk or something to try and discharge any static electricity. If you want, also, don't bend the board too much. Don't let it flex, because all these little resistors, these little black things with numbers on it, you can crack the ends off them, or you can crack the solder, and you wouldn't want to do that because then you would essentially have to repair it, and that could be a real pain in the ass. So be careful of that. You know, there's a little ribbon cable that we had to undo. This is a little ribbon or flexible cable. You can pull it out a little ways, but you don't want to pull it out too much, put too much stress on it. But what we're going to do here now is we're going to fasten that back into this board. So we pull it as far as we can. I'm going to feed it into that hole. Now, a pair of needle nose pliers like this without any teeth, just flat surfaces on the inside, is probably a good tool for this. So what we do is we feed this ribbon into the slots, and then the slots, there's this little piece of plastic, you flip that up. You flip it upwards directly from the board, feed it in. Once it's fed in all the way, and you press that little piece of plastic to be this direction with the board, and that should lock the ribbon in place, and that's how you assemble that, and you would disassemble it in reverse, of course. Okay, so the ribbon cable is installed. This little wire for the button goes in through the hole and out through the bottom, I think, or does it not? I don't think it does. But you have to connect that connector back onto that board. So snap in place. Okay, that's that. Now all this goes snapped back on and screwed together. So we have to figure out how this... Right, there is a screw that goes in this hole right here. A magnetic screwdriver is a really good thing to have right now. If you don't have one, take a magnet and run over the top of your screwdriver a few times. Turn it into a magnet. Okay, so that's in place. Back it out a little. We could flip this thing out a little bit, such that. Alright, so that screw is in. I just flipped the face out a little ways so I could line the screw up straight, and then I screwed the screw into the face. Okay. Next is to put a screw into this hole. Okay, so that screw is in there. Okay. So now there's must be another screw hole over here somewhere. Oh, there's a screw that goes right here. Two that goes right here. I thought a long brass one went in there, but I took it out and I reinstalled two shorter silver colored screws in there. So now we go around here and we look to see if there's more places where screws can go. So the next thing is to take this heat sink. What it is power amplifiers produce a lot of heat, and it dissipates all the heat from these power amplifiers that have all the white glue on. Stick it in the hole, push it all the way in over the top of the little piece of metal that has all the amplifiers on it, and press it down. Second, but now we're going to take this big piece And we're going to just lay it on top here. And piece it all together like you would a puzzle. If you don't get it right, you have to pull it back, snap it apart until it's right. Another easier way to get it together is just feed the little tabs into under the black plastic and then just fold it down on top and snap it everything into place. So now once that's done, now we put all the screws back in. These silver screws go into the heat sink. Just screw the heat sink into the boards, and there's one screw goes there and one screw goes there. Alright, I got these screws in now. These weren't silver screws. They were the longer brass screws. I guess there's a silver screw that goes right here. Put that in now. Looks like I missed. There's a couple of other little brass screws go into this side. One here and one here. And of course, when you take this apart, disassembly, the reverse, the disassembly would be just the reverse of this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 screws and one there. On the other side, one there. Guess that's a silver screw. Alright, that silver screw is in now. Did any screws go in the back? It looks like one screw goes in here in the back. I'm going to assume that's also a silver screw. It looks like we've got some screws left over, or do we? Does this one go in here? Yes, it does. Now, 1, 2, 3. 3 screws in the top. Okay, so this is the last of 3 screws in the top. Alright, and the next thing is to put the button back on, which is just simply, there's this little black plastic or black metal bushing thing that goes on there all the way in, and this button goes on top. Alright, looks like we are done. So now back to the garage, time to reinstall in the car. Get this power connector back on and so we put the antenna on. I'm going to put the power connector on, and what we want to do is we want to test. So just push the power on and we slide it, lock it in place, but we won't actually put the stereo back in its hole yet, or put everything back together, because we want to test it with the key on to make sure that everything does in fact work. Put this in place now. Moment of truth, people. Let's put this. Alright. If I press the button, what happens? Cool. And looks like my stereo settings were remembered by the computer in the I guess the car computer. So now I can just slide this back in place and reinstall the stereo. So what I'm going to do is take the keys out. I'm going to push this back into place. And now we have 2 screws. One screw there. And we have 1 screw here. And we just screw these 2 screws back in place now. All we have to do is take this pin, put that back in its hole, and push it in there, because then this pin here is going to go in that hole to reinstall this. Press it in. Alright, man. Another test, make sure it's all good. And turn it off. And turn it on. CD. CD work? Oh yeah. Fucking works. It's all good. We're out.